HarperCollins presents Miss Marple's Final Cases by Agatha Christie. Read by Juliet Stevenson. Preface. Agatha Christie's last full-length book, the Miss Marple novel Sleeping Murder, was published in the autumn of 1976, just a few months after the 85-year-old author had died. Quite remarkably, Christie had furnished her publishers, Collins, with a new book every single year since they first printed The Murder of Roger Ackroyd in 1926, often more than one book, with most of them appearing towards the end of the year as part of an annual bookshop campaign that became known as A Christie for Christmas. In fact, Sleeping Murder was mostly written during the Second World War, with Agatha Christie instructing that its publication should be held back as a treat for her fans after she died. Although for marketing purposes its cover bore the legend Miss Marple's Last Case, it was clearly rooted in the 1940s and falls chronologically between The Moving Finger, published in the UK in 1943, and A Murder is Announced, 1950. But Sleeping Murder was not to be the last Agatha Christie book to be published. An autobiography, completed in 1965 but also intended to be posthumous, was released in November 1977, and attention then shifted to the Queen of Crime's short stories. Collins' editor, Caroline Cochy, wrote to Chairman Mark Collins in October 1978, "It would be delightful to publish one last Christie for Christmas 1979, and with the help of Agatha Christie's agents at Hughes Massey, began to compile a list of early stories that had not yet appeared in any of the British collections. 6 uncollected Marple stories were identified in the American volumes The Regatta Mystery, 1939, 3 Blind Mice, 1950, and Double Sin, 1961, and it was agreed with Agatha Christie Limited that the book could be paired with 2 of the author's unpublished supernatural tales. Other new stories, including cases featuring Hercule Poirot, Harley Quinn, and Christopher Parker Pyne, would be saved for a future volume, which later appeared as Problem at Pollensa Bay, 1991. Provisionally entitled Sanctuary and Other Stories, the book was finally signed off as Miss Marple's Final Cases in the spring of 1979 and was released in hardback in October that year. The Final Cases title, although compelling for marketing reasons, was a misnomer. The stories predate most of the Marple novels, which are mainly set in the 1950s and 60s. In particular, Miss Marple Tells a Story is very much in the vein of the original Tuesday Night Club stories of the 13 Problems, 1932, and was written originally to be read aloud on radio, a task Agatha Christie undertook herself for the BBC broadcast on the evening of Friday the 11th of May, 1934. This edition also includes the additional short story Greenshaw's Folly, originally the final entry in the, mostly Poirot, collection The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding and a Selection of Entrees, 1960. It is reproduced here to bring all the remaining Miss Marple short stories by Agatha Christie into one volume. Sanctuary. The vicar's wife came round the corner of the vicarage with her arms full of chrysanthemums. A good deal of rich garden soil was attached to her strong brogue shoes, and a few fragments of earth were adhering to her nose, but of that fact she was perfectly unconscious. She had a slight struggle in opening the vicarage gate, which hung rustily half off its hinges. A puff of wind caught at her battered felt hat, causing it to sit even more rakishly than it had done before. "Bother!" said Bunch. Christened by her optimistic parents, Diana, Mrs. Harmon had become Bunch at an early age for somewhat obvious
Sample complete. Ready to continue?